So here we are again. This is an extensive behind the scenes look at the filmmaking process of Haven. I'm here with Miranda Magee again.
Hello.
So this kind of create a little bit of backstory here. So from that response that we had in the theatre in Miranda with Project Pacama, we took about probably 6 months to really decide that we were going to adapt this to film. I think it was because we both felt, and some of the other individuals at the time, that this could easily translate well for film. But what happened was Sanchez, who was initially in the play, he actually went to LA to study. He was at Stella Argyle or something, this very highly acclaimed acting school. So there was no way for us to actually use Sanchez. So we kind of had to go back to the drawing board, and that's how we kind of came across Kadeem. And Kadeem wasn't my first choice, I'll be honest with you. I've said that in the previous one as well, and that's not to knock Kadeem at all, because his actual process in the rehearsal room was very extensive and very good. But I always thought he looked a bit too old. But then I was reassured by my casting directors that, you know, a lot of people of that age look like that now, you know, cause, and I'm just like, I'm just being closed-minded.
There's a lot of young mothers as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we cast Kadeem, and then we sort of set out to make this movie. Now initially it was only one day, wasn't it? So there was no beach stuff, there was no nothing. So we were kind of almost taking everything that we did from the play, but subtracting some of the things that we felt wouldn't work. So there was a whole dialogue section about board games. There was a section about music. There was a whole bunch of initial sequences where Sanchez's character was incredibly mean to the mother in the first half, and I was always cautious that might become too much in the film, and I think we needed to tone it down. I don't know how you feel about that. How would you feel if we shot that stuff now? And
what, with Sanchez?
Yeah, just let's just say the whole scene. Really.
I think with film though, Tim, I think there's a lot of obviously with stage, you are reliant on dialogue, and because you don't have the visuals that you do on a film, so you can say quite a lot without having to have loads of dialogue. And I think having, you know, the card game, and I think you do all of that in what we've got with Haven, and not, so you don't, like you say, you don't need it. You know, you've got the fact that he does come across not particularly supportive of his mum, and you know, and he comes across, you know, he doesn't want to do stuff for her, and then he comes across quite troubled, but more in a way for of a reflecting way. You know, there's more compassion in what he's doing. So yeah, sorry, I'm digressing, but as far as film is concerned, I think less is more, isn't it?
And this is a film that epitomises less is more. I mean, we completely subtracted all the dialogue that we shot.
You don't need it.
And it wasn't that it was bad on the day or anything. We performed it to the best of everyone's abilities, really. It was like you said, it didn't really resonate with the film.
Just didn't need it. But to be fair, I do think it also is reliant on the acting. You know, you have to have actors. I'm not suggesting my own, you know, blowing my own trumpet, but I'm talking about Kadeem really here as well, mostly Kadeem, is that you've got to be able to tell the story, and if you can do it without speaking, then, you know, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
you know,
I think
and
so.
The action and the direction, you know, which I think is the best way.
So how was it working with Kadeem compared to Sanchez? Because they are two completely different performers.
Yeah, I think Kadeem came across to me much very depthful, very sensitive, a very giving actor, and Sanchez came across to me quite edgy, dynamic, also a giving, not you know, not in any way a selfish actor either. Both were very giving in their own ways, and easy to work with and comfortable to work with. But Sanchez, it was much more of a sorry, just laughing at the stage crew. It's a little bit funny. Yeah, very different, but just different dynamics, absolutely. But both worked for the character in different ways that I could tap into as an actor. I think Kadim is a Meisner actor, and I think Sanchez is a method actor.
Yeah. It's very different.
And I've worked with both different styles before. The beauty of being a Meisner actor is that you respond to whatever's in front of you. So whatever technique is being used, you can respond to, because it's all about responding in the moment. Working with two different techniques, two different dynamics, and two different male actors,
and two different processes as well. Like the making of this was very intensive. It was I'd say it was more intensive than the play, because at least with the play we had a couple of days in between to sort of develop ideas and to develop the script a bit further. We sort of only had like 1 day rehearsal, and we went straight off to Surrey. I think that's where we filmed, and just we did what we did on the script, but at the same time we were aware that given how complex some of the shots were, and also like the less amount of time that we actually had when we were filming, that we were kind of conflicted in a way that you didn't have enough space to prepare, for instance, because we were all downstairs, but the family was in the house too.
Yeah.
The DOP, who is just on the camera there, we were shooting in his family's house, and his family was actually in the house on the day of filming, so we couldn't really be like ourselves. We still had to be aware that we're in someone else's property, in that sense. So that was a bit restrictive as well. But how was it in the sense of like trying to balance, because we kind of tried to shoot chronological, but we ended up not doing it completely. Like it started off chronological, then went non-linear halfway through.
I mean, I don't know. As in my experience, I'm kind of used to working in non order, however you put it. It's sorry, Tim, I didn't get much sleep last night because I do have a baby.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So I generally haven't slept for a year. But so I'm quite used to not working in order. I think if anything, it might throw me if you start shooting in order. I'll be like, what? But it's obviously you have to do what the weather's doing, and the colour of the sky and things like that you have to work with. But anyway, it didn't affect my performance because I kind of made decisions on how the scene is going to be before, as an individual moment. So I know what I'm going to do for each moment. But also I'm always ready to let go of that, depending on what the other actor gives as well. So you're kind of working with them as well. But you establish how you feel about the character that's in the story. You establish that in your own mind, and then you do what you need to do to get that emotion, irrelevant of what order the scenes are going in.
Yeah.
So if I had to shoot this scene, which is obviously the most heart-rendering scene in the film, where she dies, and we had to do that first, I would have no issue shooting that first, really. I think because I know the depth of emotion that my character would be at, and
because you'd also had the luxury of doing it prior as well, which is I guess something you could work with as well. But again, I'm responding off him and not Sanchez. Yeah. So, there's always something to respond to, and if you're connected to the other actor under the given set of circumstances, you will respond truthfully. And it doesn't matter whether it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock at night. Yeah, I think we were up, me, Kadim, who else did I bring with me that day? Bradley and Michael. We met, I think, in and around Woolwich at about 10:30, and then we travelled down from Surrey in and around that time. So we were up from about 10:30 all the way to like the very next day at 10:30. I remember when we were driving back, it was just me and Michael that was still awake in the front of the car, whereas Kadim and Bradley were completely knocked out in the back of the car. But that's how it is with independent film. A lot of the time you're working with a very restrictive budget, which technically you can't really afford to do any of it. You have to work on a lot of thank yous and
Yeah.
IOUs and things. I think one of the things that was very restrictive, and I'm surprised we even got the quality that we did on the film, was that we had a budget of about £290 for this first day. And you know, it's just you know, I'm forever grateful that I was able to get the quality of the actors and the crew that I did with that restrictive budget, and I still managed to get everyone at least some form of you know, small reimbursement as best I could at the time with that budget that we had. And I cannot recommend working with budgets like that. But then when you are emerging and you are coming up, as a lot of people are in the industry, you do have to work like that sometimes to kind of get yourself out there, can't you? So.
Well, it's also, Tim, it also depends on the project, you know.
Yes.
It depends on the script and the concept, and I think if people believe in the project and it's something that they want to be involved in because it's going to be a good project, then they will, you know,
they would donate their time and
they
their energy.
would, yeah. And it's, you know, I think that's how everybody felt about Haven, you know, because of the, I mean, I know that's how the DOP came into it with all of his crew, because he'd never done anything like this particular project before, and he'd done lots of other things.
Yeah, lots of action and sci-fi based things.
Yeah, so he wanted to do something completely different, and you know, but it has to be good for you to be able to work for free, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's it.
Yeah, and it's a very truthful process as well, because when we first met, like, I couldn't really show him the play. The play wasn't quite cut together or anything like that. It was quite early stages, but when it was available, like, I did have it there for him to see, but he was just interested in the concept, really. Like, the concept was very fresh at the time and was very different to anything he'd worked on, and the same with the actors as well. Like, it was something which I don't think you get a lot of casting calls for, realistically. And you know, I've always tried with the people that I attract to work with, any idea I have is to try to make stuff that no one else is really tackling. And it's not to be just different, it's more that I feel that, you know, the ideas come naturally, like we were saying in the previous recording. This idea stemmed from you talking in a rehearsal room after reading something potentially before you came
in the news,
and then that's now 5 years of time and investment on doing this film, and then eventually Void as well as the play. So speaking of this stuff that we're seeing here, when we were doing this stuff, this was actually near where you're based in Margate, wasn't it? So
yeah, well, yeah, that's where I was born in Margate. I no longer live there now, but I do. Yeah, this is my hometown, which obviously added to my performance in this, very much so, and the fact that my mother was just living up the road, you know, so I probably would have seen her that morning. You know, so the mood for me was, it was very easy to emotionally connect throughout this particular, you know, part of the film.
And this part was, again, it was going back to the roots of the project, wasn't it? It was like a very loose idea that we had. We did script lines, which we again didn't use any of the scripted lines in the actual final film, and a lot of the stuff that made it into the cut was improv.
Yeah.
Again, so and that comes down to, you know, me having trust on the performers, and I guess you guys feeling comfortable to go in those directions, to throw ideas out there, not for me to restrict you in that sense, to not allow those ideas to form. And I think, you know, the highlight of the film, the backbone of the movie, where you talk about the Alka-Seltzers, you know, that wasn't scripted, that came naturally. And if that line never hit, you can argue the punch of the end of this movie doesn't quite work, because there's no context to anything. How did that kind of come in the moment, like when you
because when I was young, I used to go down to the beach, then pretty just further up from where this was filmed, with my brother, and my brother sadly died in 1998. He took his own life. He was heavily into drugs, and he jumped off the cliff not far from where that was filmed.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Did you not?
No, did not know that.
It's a long time ago, so it's not something that I, you know, obviously it changes you as a person, that sort of experience, but it's not something that I openly talk about anymore, you know. So but he used to feed seagulls Alka-Seltzers.
Wow.
He used to do it as a kid. He used to do it as something that you do as a little boy, just, you know, like throwing stones and getting into muddy puddles and you know, getting an air rifle and shooting people with Rice Krispies, and what little boys get up to. And you know, him and his friend Gary, I think his name was, they used to get up to all sorts of things. And that's one thing that I'd never actually witnessed it, but he used to tell me what, you know, what would happen. And that's, all of a sudden I found myself sitting close to where A, he died, B, where we used to play, and that's what came out. That's what came out of my mouth as far as the improv was concerned. It just came out, you know?
Naturally.
Because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was remembering all of that past memories.
That's interesting.
And also, you know, and the fact that at this point, the work that I'd done as an actor, as far as Kadim was concerned, the emotional connection I'd made with him in my own process, it made sense to say it to him as my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, like, after this film had been finished and it had been submitted to film festivals and stuff, you actually did become a mother.
I did, yes.
Looking back on the film and also the play, I know at the time you were weary of playing a mother. I remember you saying that you didn't feel that you had enough, like, you know, because you hadn't been in that experience, you know. How do you feel looking at your performance now, in the sense of like being a mother? Does it change anything in the way you played it, or?
I wasn't a mother here, was I?
No. You were still.
No, I'm a mother now. So when I do
you were
Voids,
still caring for your mother around this time.
So when I do Voids, that's when you'll probably see that development. But I always felt that playing a mother, I think it changes you as a person, and I think you have to, as far as experiences in life is concerned. I mean, I did speak to a lot of different mothers, and including my own mother, about, you know, having a son and the emotions and connections that you need to relate to in order to play them. But I was worried about it, yes, and I am a mother now, and looking back at the work that I've done in Haven and in Dreams Cease Repeat, the play, I don't think I did a bad job.
No,
I'm not going to lie.
You did very well.
I look at that and I think I see connection. I do see the emotion. I see gravitas. I see depth. So yes, I don't know when Void comes and you see, because I think there's slightly, because obviously she's passed and she's now going to be part of his how would you say, not spirit, but
there's a couple of ways you can look at it, really. I guess it comes down to interpretation. I mean, the way the material is written is it's kind of his memories, and he's like almost like guilt that creates hallucinations and all other sorts of things. I mean, speaking of Void, how do you feel returning to this character for the third time, and you know, what do you feel that you can, you know, you mentioned about being a mother now, like, so you'll be bringing a whole new dimension to it, but what do you feel as a performer is something which you feel that you could add to what you've already done as a really good characterization, and also just in general?
I think as when it's difficult because the actual script for Void is a lot of the flashbacks are her in as part of his subconscious and his guilt. So it's gonna, you know, it's obviously going to be his perception on how he feels about the circumstances is manifesting, and that's what, you know, that's what the mother. But as far as playing it as a mother is concerned now, there's an element of selflessness, I think, that I would bring to the role now that I don't think I would have had before, because as a mother you become very selfless. You have something so much else to consider, that you have to consider. There's no escape from that. Not that you want to escape from it, but you know, you have to consider it. So you become this strength. You're very strong as a person, and as a solid rock you become. And that's what I would be bringing into the performance in Void, is which I don't think I would have had so much, if any, in the other two productions or projects. So for sure, but it's also the ability to take on anything. So whatever Kadim's character would throw at her as a mother, she would be able to understand and deal with and carry, which I don't think would have been there in the other two productions. So yeah, for sure, that's what I'll be bringing into Void. Is that?
Yeah, so it's quite exciting, the fact that we're now drawing a close to this recording, and we're going to be moving towards actually making Void. So we hope that, you know, you've gained some insight from the filmmaking process from myself, from Miranda, through Kadim, and also Michael, and we hopefully will see you soon and show you what we have for this new film. Thank you very much.
Thank